I'm Gordon Katic from Cited, like citation, because Cited is about research. But you won't learn about any whiz-bang scientific discoveries. You'll learn about the contentious political stories behind the research. Our season is called The Rationality Wars. What does it mean to be rational? What does it mean to be irrational? But most of all, who gets to decide? You'll hear stories of scientists who pathologized the people and scientists who fought for collective liberation. That's at citedpodcast.com.
Introducing Climate Organizing Shorts, a series of conversations to help inspire ideas for fostering change in your community.
That's genuinely what we're trying to do, is build power together as average people to hold decision makers accountable and get the basic things we all need.
Witnessing work is really big in a lot of Indigenous cultures.
You do not have to be a super serious revolutionary.
It's okay to make mistakes.
The joys of it are so amplified when you're in community with others, and it's easier to shoulder when you're standing side by side with others and not alone.
You can't build a foundation for a movement that's going to last over the long haul that is fragmented.
I sleep well at night. I don't have a lot of anxiety about the future because I know I'm doing something really meaningful.
Pick a fight with somebody. You're a climate organizer now.
Find Climate Organizing Shorts wherever you listen to podcasts.
Cyborg Goddess is a podcast where we use a feminist intersectional lens to examine technologies and even learn things about ourselves.
So before I answer your question, though, let me ask you one quick question, Jill. Do you trust your smartphone?
No.
I'm your host, Jennifer Jill Fellows, and I hope you'll join me for the next episode. Bye.
Welcome to Pullback, where we ask experts to explain big ideas so you get the full story behind the hype. Pullback is a proud member of the Harbinger Media Network of progressive Canadian podcasts. I'm Kyla Hewson, and my co-host Kristen Pugh and I are delighted to host our annual end-of-year quiz episode featuring some friends of the pod. We are joined by Stefan Hostetter, the Director of Programs and Community with the Center for Social Innovation and co-host of Green Majority Radio, as well as Gordon Katic, host of the award-winning Cited podcast series featuring stories about the politics of science and expertise, and the fabulous Ryan MacRae, an advocate for migrant worker rights featured earlier this season for his work with the Cooper Institute on the report Permanent Jobs, Temporary People. Thank you to our guests, and thank you, listener. We wish you a happy new year, and we will see you later in 2025. Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to the Pullback end of year quiz. It's a tradition that Kristen and I, very smart Kristen, we started it in year 1 of our podcast. So I believe this is the 5th one now. A happy anniversary to Kristen for 5 years of Pullback. And welcome to our guests, Gordon, Ryan, and Steph. Now, how this works is Kristen has come up with a series of questions to round up the news of the last year. And boy, she's good at it. I did the last one, so you guys are in for a real treat. She missed last year's, and so this year you're getting the primo top shelf questions. Don't shake your head, Kristen.
Everybody's going to be so disappointed.
Can I say I am so nervous because I am so stupid. Like, I forget all, like, the detritus of news. I feel like I read so much of it and then it somehow just like falls through the holes in my brain. So I'm going to like forget all of these things, and I will both blame my brain and I will blame the media.
No, it's like, it's completely impossible. Like, even the news that's happened this week, I've totally lost track of.
Yeah. Right before this, my wife was like, "Did you prepare?" And I was like, "How?"
The stakes are very low, although there is a prize. And so the winner is going to tell Kristen and I what charity they would like us to support. And we're going to shoot them like a little $50 donation or just a little something to fight for. So everybody get your charities in mind. We'll shout them all out at the end of the episode. And the winner will get a little donation from Kristen and I, the Pullback team.
It's the other thing. We never prepare our guests for this. We always forget.
I could have told you this weeks ago, but I didn't because I always forget. It's the 5th one, maybe next year. So we need some buzz-in words from everybody so we know who is buzzing in when they feel like they have the answer.
We recommend shorter words. It will be easier for you. Megan Linton went for jurisdiction one year and regretted it.
Steph, what would you like your buzz-in word to be?
I'm going to go with bubbles.
Bubbles,
I
like
like it.
It's a fun word to say.
Nice. Gordon.
Let's see. Well, given that I host a show about academia, I've got to come up with a word that's sort of like an academic fuck up. Let's go with retraction.
Wow. Still 3 syllables, though.
Going with the Megan Linton school. I like it. And Ryan, what would you like your buzz-in word to be?
Wow, I'm so much less creative. I think I'm going to stick with a very classic onomatopoeia with a bing.
I like it.
Like the inferior search engine, you know?
Yeah.
Not that I'm not a Chrome, I'm not a Google guy. I'm a DuckDuckGo fella myself.
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah. Well, you should have went with quack.
Wow. Can I change?
Absolutely.
Wow, Gordon, thank you so much. Quack is fantastic. Wow, I cede all of my answers in time to Gordon, please.
That's a good way of winning. Can I also cede all my answers to Gordon?
Kristen, we don't. That's the end of the episode. We don't need to ask any questions.
Bye, folks.
You add my 0 to your 2, then surely I'll win.
Incredible. Is everybody ready to get started?
Not really, but let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So the economy is not doing all that well. The Canadian consumer has suffered a 30% increase in the cost of living as a result of recent inflation. So things aren't going great. My question for you is, what term was used to describe the feeling of financial stagnation despite the economy not technically being in recession?
Bubbles.
Steph.
Vibes session.
That's not the one I have. Is that real?
I mean, that might be America is in a vibe session. We may be in something else.
You know what? I'll give it to you. There's a National Post article. So we'll give that one to you.
I saw this one when I opened the quiz this morning and I didn't know it either. So I think I'm just going to give the answer to everyone, Kristen, which is because I like it. Me session. Where did that come from, Kristen?
Yeah, it was, a Canadian news article. I feel like vibe session is equally accurate, though. So good job, Steph.
This is a funny one because in our last season, we talked a little bit about this where it's like the economy was doing shit, but so many people are like, well, it's actually not doing bad. It's just like in your head somehow. It's your session or it's a vibe session. It's not actually a cost of living crisis.
This one's on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Okay, you guys ready for question 2?
You bet.
So this fall, the federal government announced several changes to the temporary foreign worker program. Name one of them.
Someone's on Ryan.
Yeah, I can quack it.
Go, Ryan.
They decided to disallow any LMIAs approved in centrist metropolitan areas, below with unemployment, I think below or above 6%.
That's right. Yeah. And
they also, your workforce limit of temporary foreign workers can be 10% is the limit now. It can only be 10% of your labor force. And then they also lessened LMIA lengths in the low wage stream to 1 year from 2 years.
So problem solved now, Ryan, right?
Yeah, we're all good. We're all good, all done. Thanks for that one. You floated that one to me. That was great.
Can someone explain this to me a little bit? What is this supposed to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the idea is, what's frustrating for me is that I think for a lot of people in Canada right now is that there's this idea that people put out a lot of publications about the rights of temporary foreign workers and migrant workers and migrants that are here with temporary status. But the government really seems to be fixating on the number of people that are here. So this is a measure that they're trying to say, we need to limit the number of temporary foreign workers that are here in the country. Let's do it this way. We've seen that kind of with permanent residency as well, which, we definitely have a problem with the fact that their status is temporary. But, they should be able to come here, right? Of course. And that's the issue. It's the temporariness that's the issue, not so much the fact that the number of people that are here.
This is one of those things this year that completely sort of caught me off guard. Maybe I was naive, but the really radical swings in public opinion over immigration. Like for the first time in decades, people are like, Canadians are saying there's way too many people coming in. And like, there's this whole national mythology that we're so welcoming, but like, that's just unequivocally dead. As of like this year, it happened so quick, it seems.
And I feel part of that is on the liberals themselves. You know, there's like a little bit of my frustration is just sort of, you spend all this time building up this argument and sort of idea that the Liberal Party cares about climate change and is like, I mean, literally when they came in, they said that they would give permanent residency or they give a path towards permanent residency to, temporary foreign workers. And then within a year, they decided, well, what if we had no morals and just said we just didn't like anything that we said previously? Maybe then people will like us. And it's like, that's not how the world works. You know, you can't just decide that everything you said last year was a lie and this year it's different. And now people are like, never mind, Trudeau's cool. Like, you're going down, Trudeau, give up, at least stand by your guns and do some good before you go down.
Yeah, totally. They completely bend it. It's funny, if you actually go back and read, at the time, it was Sean Fraser, he was the immigration minister. If you read his mandate letter that Trudeau gave to him and then compare that to the Trudeau today at the end of 2024, it's wild. It's wild to see the difference. You named a lot of them, Steph, but it's like they wanted to double refugee numbers. They were looking at like regularizing undocumented people. And now they've just completely, they're just bending to whatever way is going to try to get them to stay in power. And it's not going to work.
Also, look at the difference in how like Claudia Sheinbaum in Mexico and Justin Trudeau in Canada have responded to like Trump's bullying, right? Like, we're just bending over backwards saying, yeah, we'll give you as many border guards as you'd like. And she's like, no, fuck off. Like,
also, shout out to Lululemon, who was furious about the cap on 10% of your employees being temporary foreign workers.
That's a bad look.
I have a lot of gripes against Lululemon, so I just wanted to go ahead and shout them out on that one. Their tights still slap, though. You hate to love them. One of those things.
It's okay, Kyla. It's not an ethical consumption podcast.
Oh, thank God. Christian, were you ready for question 3?
All right. So this year, several provinces went to the polls, and the election in British Columbia was particularly close. Only 33,000 votes separated the NDP and the Conservatives in the popular vote. The Conservatives in BC are actually not traditionally the center-right party of choice. So which party's implosion led to the stunning rise of the BC Conservatives?
Bubbles.
Yes, Steph.
Didn't the United collapse before? But the Liberals were there before. But I guess the Liberals sort of became United, then became the Conservatives. So I'm going to say United.
Yeah, I would have accepted either.
Yeah, the BC Liberal Party rebranded as the BC United Party to trick older voters into thinking it was someone else, which worked on a few of the people that I didn't know. But it didn't matter. You couldn't vote for them in the end anyways.
I did like the number of people who, when interviewed afterwards, said that they just needed to get Trudeau out. And that's why they voted for the Conservatives. And I was like, this is good. This is good. This is good for us.
I had a whole conversation with an older person in my life who was like, I didn't realize that the provincial conservative liberal parties weren't affiliated with the federal ones. And I'm like, oh my God, we need to change our entire political system because this is nonsense. Give us citizens' assemblies. Anyways.
Nice call back to our season, Kyle. Good job.
I got that one.
I took away a lot of things from this last season. All right. I'm ready for the next one, Kristen.
So this one's a sports question. So this year, the Summer Olympics were held in Paris, and there were a lot of great moments. The refugee Olympic team won its first ever medal. And also that Norwegian swimmer who really liked the chocolate muffins kind of took everybody by storm. But why did the Canadian women's soccer team face controversy?
Oh, retraction.
Gordon.
There was a sort of spying scandal in which they used a drone to record another team, if I remember correctly.
What?
Yeah.
I did not hear about this. I didn't even know the Olympics was happening this year. I was so under a rock. Why did we do that?
We've been doing it for years. And according to like the person who went down for it, everyone does it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, too, it just shows how little I know about soccer strategy, because in my head, I'm like, how is that going to help? You know, but clearly it does. But, you know, in my head, I'm like, I don't know how that's going to fix anything.
No, and it was against like a team they knew they were going to probably beat. Like, it's just strategically really questionable.
I think it ended up taking down like the head of the FC coach too. Like, this thing had like really like half of Canadian, like for all the ways that like Canadian sports are in absolute disarray. Like, you know, there's the entire fact that the Canadian men's hockey basically is like embroiled in scandal. It's like, we need to turn off and turn on all Canadian sports and hope that something gets cleaned up.
The PWHL seems nice for now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's one. But yeah, truly. Here we go. Question 5. The UN's annual climate convention, COP29, was about climate finance this year. And again, it was a bit of a mess like some of the previous years. But parties did reach agreement on a new collective quantified goal on climate finance. What is the annual amount the parties agreed to?
Whack.
Ooh, Ryan.
100 billion, I believe.
Nope.
Bubbles.
Okay, Steph.
I think it's 300 billion.
Yes.
Yeah. You were close, Ryan.
I mean, good guess, Ryan, but I'm glad it's not. I'm glad it's more.
Yeah.
Wasn't the initial ask something like $1 trillion?
1.2, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so getting there.
And do you remember that wasn't like the president or something, like didn't he get caught on video talking about like arranging deals for oil and gas companies or something?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. They keep putting it in places where they're basically like dead center oil economies. Like next year's in Brazil, but after that they're going to go to like, you know, Calgary or something and be like, here we go. This is the perfect place for these things.
I can't wait for COP29 at Fort Mac. Bring all the globalist elites to Fort Mac. Have a great time.
I don't know if anyone else has read the book Fire Weather, which is all about how it was mostly based around the Fort McMurray fires, but it's just about like...
It's about fires, yeah.
Just a shout out to that book because it was one of the best books I read this year. So
I have it on my stand, and I haven't started reading it because I have a hard time reading nonfiction because I find it too depressing. So instead I read apocalyptic fiction, which is for some reason better.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not depressing.
Sure. Yeah.
Side note, you know what I discovered recently? That the US military has like a sci-fi wing where they have writers write apocalyptic fiction about like cataclysmic disasters, including climate change. So, Stefan, if you're into that, you can find some U.S. military-funded sci-fi.
Great. And I'm just worried that the people I like, if you tell me Ann Leckie is funded by the U.S. military, I'm going to be distinctly sad.
I don't think so. I think they're really bad writers.
Kristen, you ready for question 6?
All right. So 55,000 Canada Post workers have been on strike since mid-November in pursuit of higher wages, improvement to working conditions, and pension protections. What potentially illegal step did Canada Post take recently, prompting a complaint to the Canadian Industrial Relations Board?
Retract.
Gordon.
I believe they have fired some striking workers, although they claim they're like contract workers. It's not entirely clear, but yeah.
Yeah, temporary layoffs, but that's exactly right. And so sketchy.
Shout out to the Canada Post workers. I have half a mind to find out where they're picketing here in Vancouver and bring them all like a ton of cookies. Because what's really making me upset about this is how many people are like mad at the striking workers. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, are there Canada Post workers? Like, treat them well. It's like when people get mad when teachers go on strike. I'm like, we all should be in unions.
I don't know if you guys have noticed too, but I felt that like some of the headlines in CBC, some of the language that are used is like has changed over the time, kind of like almost saying like pushing the onus on the workers to come to an agreement sort of thing.
Yeah, I feel like as closer we get to the holidays, the more like sort of implicit pushing there is from journalists to get like Trudeau to essentially like force the hand essentially of the union or something. They've got a lot of leverage. They should use it. Not the government. I mean, the workers.
The Globe had a whole thing about how they've, about their letters to Santa. They're using scab labor now. I mean, they just said that they had special things, but they UPS or some shit, but you know. The quick shout out to the thing about Canada Post workers is that they have had an idea that would work in delivering community power that would like basically fund the postal workers whole system for years on end, while also improving a bunch of people's lives in a bunch of ways that we've just not done for like a decade. So like if you want to actually, if you imagine they're not making money, they have a plan, just let them do it and it will save you money.
What's their plan?
Yeah, what is this plan?
It's called Delivering Community Power. Yeah, it's a whole combination of things. Basically, it brings in postal banking so that you can like bank at your post office instead of having to rely on the big banks. It has to do with electrifying their fleet, building renewable energy on the land that they own so that they can filter, use that to power the electric fleet. They have like new community services and then green jobs. It's like they're basically being like, what if we provide, like we exist everywhere. What if we provided a bunch more services because we exist everywhere and we could leverage the fact that this is true. And they've been like pushing it for like 10 years. And it's like one of the things that like, if you ever imagined, if Trudeau had like actually believed what he said about building back better from COVID, he would have just done this plan.
Right.
Instead of giving $2 billion to the oil industry. Like this is what he could have done that he just didn't.
I just watched the movie Klaus for the first time, which is all about a postal worker bringing joy to a town that hates each other. And
great film.
It was delightful. I can't believe
film.
I have not seen this Christmas movie before. It's so unbelievably good. So if anyone wants to really feel for their Canada Post workers, I recommend the movie Klaus this holiday season.
Will stop me from hating my neighbors, then the best probably.
Have you guys seen I think it's this hour's 22 minutes skit with Santa? Oh man, it's so good.
Kristen sent that to me and one of our other friends. We have like this group chat. She sent it to us directly. Kristen, I just wanted to say, actually, I didn't really respond to it then. Probably my favorite skit I've seen in months. Like I watched it twice. It was so good. It's Santa the communist calling a Canada Post worker a scab for bringing him Santa letters.
That's funny.
Naughty. Reason, class trade.
My partner growing up, she's a real like kind of hippie mom, and they didn't really celebrate, they didn't believe in Santa Claus, and she was told that Santa Claus was like deposed by Santina Claus, who like freed the slave labor. This is like alternative Christmas imaginary. I love it.
I love that. I'm going to send my new child into school thinking this being like, Santina Claus freed the elves. What are you guys doing over here?
All right, Kristen, I think we're ready for question 7.
All right, question 7. Rebels recently made surprising gains in which country's nearly 14-year civil war?
Retract.
Gordon.
Syria. They took over the town of Aleppo?
Yeah, and I think another one as well, but yeah. It's pretty wild that it didn't even like this week make like the top 3 news stories.
Yeah.
We're all too busy moaning about how Canada Post workers are on strike.
And I was going to say, just don't have your major military victories the same time where someone shoots a CEO.
Oh, yeah. I think we're ready for question 8.
All right, here we go. There was significant flooding across the country again this year due to climate change. Which city has banned homeowners from turning basements into apartment units after record-setting rainfall from Tropical Storm Debbie, which caused flooding in August?
Bubbles, I'm going to take a shot.
Yes, Jeff.
I have literally absolutely no idea. I'm trying to think of like the lowest, like, I'm trying to like, if I knew Canadian geography better to figure out what a low place is, I'm going to go with St. John.
No.
Retract. I'm just going to take another shot. I feel like the path of hurricanes goes in that direction. So Halifax?
No.
I should have Googled Hurricane Debbie first.
I think that might be a red herring for you guys. I think West Coast.
Yeah. Because I feel like it blows my mind that a municipality would be like less housing right now. You know what I mean? Like it's wild. I have genuinely no idea.
It is Montreal.
Oh, Montreal!
Wow,
Montreal,
really?
Yeah.
That's huge. Like that's a huge city. Like that's going to be a ton of housing.
Yeah, I guess it's just gotten too expensive for like the basement units are always flooding and it's causing problems. So
wow, yeah, fair.
I lived through my first hurricane this year actually because I was in New Orleans for about 5 weeks, and there was a proper hurricane that hit us. The name of the hurricane escapes me. It wasn't the big one that hit Florida. It was the one like 2 weeks before. But the place that we were staying in, the street was just like a proper like lake, and we like lost power. It was like the real deal. And You know, me and my partner were like so nervous, and everyone else was just like, "Oh, baby's first hurricane." Like, no one was particularly worried.
Yeah, we got humbled. Like I think for a while on the East Coast, it was like, oh, kind of like, ooh, a hurricane, a lot of rain. And then we got like humbled by Fiona 2 years ago. And it's like, this is not, this. I remember like literally like before a few people were starting to work, like, oh, maybe we'll get the day off tomorrow. And it's like, oh, no, we're not going to work for the next month.
Yeah, because it affected almost the entirety of PEI, didn't it?
Yeah, there's some stat that was like, it's like 75% of trees were impacted. And I remember being like, that's crazy. But then when you fly into Charlottetown, you fly in usually over the North Shore. And like you look down and it's like, there is the majority of trees are all sideways. They're all down. It's wild. Yeah, it's like really decimated a lot of trees.
All right, we ready for the next question? Why is the Competition Bureau reportedly investigating Canadian landlords, according to reporting by The Breach?
Bubbles.
Steph.
They are using a software, I believe it's even an artificial intelligence software, to potentially raise rents in a way that could be similar to collusion. I had a mini rant about this like a week ago because I was like, oh, it's great. It's the people who are running the School of Cities program here in the U of T also happen to be embroiled in a scandal where you are fixing the price of housing. Wonderful.
Everything's very normal over here.
Yeah. We have a grocer that fixes the price of bread, and we have housing developers fix the price of things, and everyone wonders why we have inflation. It's tough guess.
That's not even to mention telecoms.
True.
Who is doing this? Like just everybody, or like the ones who own the most things? I have this is news to me.
I think it's Dream Unlimited was the name of the one that I think got dinged, where our second place in our mayoral race last time works there now. So in case anyone in 2 years decides that, oh yeah, Anna Bilau is the way to go, know that she literally works for the company that is colluding to raise your rent. I don't exactly know how the AI works. I think the way the AI worked is that it actually just sort of like came up with what an average price everywhere was around it. So like they didn't actually need to be talking to each other. They could just use the artificial intelligence to suck up what the price would be and then use that to keep raising prices as a way to do it. But I'm not 100% sure.
An AI called YieldStar that it's been well utilized in the United States by landlords, and like they're now running into legal trouble there because it's collusion. Like I don't see how it could be anything else. So there's been one company that's been sort of dinged, but I think the Competition Bureau, they haven't confirmed the scope of their investigation, so it might be wider potentially.
Cool and good. Awesome. Great. Housing as a commodity. We love it. Okay. Ready? Kristen has a fun question for us now.
Yeah. Okay, so TikTok may soon be banned in the United States after a recent court challenge failed. TikTok trends this year featured cucumbers, cute animals, the color chartreuse, and what word of the year?
Oh, quack.
Ryan.
I believe it was brain rot.
No.
Retract.
Gordon, you wanted to have a go.
I think it was demure.
Yeah.
Which I'm still not sure what that means.
Very mindful, very demure.
Yeah, do you guys think the ban will go through, or what do you think's going to happen in January?
I mean, I think that since Musk owns the United States now, that they'll pivot to video. X will pivot to video and they'll ban TikTok.
It may be, but all the China hawks, obviously, like that's what they want. And it's in the interest of the United States to do it. But I'm surprised by how many like right-wing nuts are on TikTok, and Trump is on there, and so I don't know. It's not like, I feel like there was this perception of it as this like very young, hip, progressive place, but I see just as much like Trump stuff on there as like sort of left-coded stuff. So they may not.
Yeah. I would say, Gordon, like on your first point is probably pretty accurate. I think it's in a lot of America's interest for some of the people in that administration, the incoming administration. Like they're going to want ammunition, and I think they'll use that to come after China.
All right, last question. This fall, the government announced plans for a high-speed rail network linking which Canadian cities?
Bubbles, Toronto to Montreal.
Yes, indeed.
I think it might also go through Kingston because it would be silly not to.
Yeah, it goes through Peterborough, Quebec City, Ottawa, Laval, and Trois-Rivières.
I gotta say, I do love, and by love I mean absolutely hate, the fact that every single time anyone ever mentions the concept of high-speed rail, it's always when they're going to lose for sure. It's like this thing where they're like, you know what everyone loves? High-speed rail. I'll mention it when I'm definitely going to lose and no one will ever build it. But, you know, like the Ontario Liberals did this when they were going down. Like, I truly, truly think that it's just like on their playbook the last year. What do we got to do? I don't know. Mention high-speed rail again.
I was so mad reading the article for this question because apparently there was a plan that was supposed to go through in 2008, which would have opened in 2020. I could be using it right now. But now it won't open until like 2048 or something.
2048?
That's, as you point out, if it goes through.
Yeah. I'm still holding that hope for the Hyperloop. Remember that? Whatever happened to the Hyperloop? That was going to be the way that we got from point A to point B and like vomited in between.
You've heard the whole theory that he only mentioned the Hyperloop to kill high-speed rail?
No, but that makes a lot.
Yeah. Apparently Musk just made up the concept of a Hyperloop because he didn't want high-speed rail to come in California because he wanted to sell more electric cars. And so he kept saying that there was going to be this better way of doing things without actually proving it, and managed to delay the high-speed rail in California by like 5 or 10 years. And now the Hyperloop, of course, is just that weird tunnel in Las Vegas where you can sit in a Tesla for 12 seconds.
There's a train right now, the one that goes from the East Coast to Montreal. I think it's called like the Ocean maybe, or something Ocean-esque. Anyways, and it runs from Halifax to Montreal. And there's like a big stretch in northern New Brunswick because there's been so much like not enough maintenance done on the track over the last number of years that the highest speed the train can go is 30 kilometers an hour, which is like, oh my God. It takes you like longer on the train than it does driving, which is like, how is that possible?
Or riding a bicycle in some instances. So, Kristen, we have a 3-way tie.
Oh my gosh, I didn't prep a
tiebreaker. Ryan, I see your face looking. I gave you 3 points for guessing all 3.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, of the temporary foreign workers issue. So all of our guests are tied at 4 points, which means Kristen needs to come up with a tiebreaker. And while she does that, is there any big news from the last year that we didn't touch on that you guys can remember that you would like to maybe mention here at the end?
The kind of Toronto story, to go hyperlocal, is the absolutely ridiculous Ford war on the bike lane. Because, you know, I live near these bike lanes, and there's some talk of he passed legislation that would allow him to just you know, supersede the jurisdiction of the municipal government and just tear up bike lanes that they had built because they impact car traffic just a little bit, which apparently is going to cost possibly like $50 million or more just to remove the bike lanes, but then also be like a year of disruption to traffic. So that's been kind of bonkers.
Kristen has a tiebreaker for us.
All right. The PWHL's season just started, and they have included a rule that is slightly different from the NHL. Name that rule. This might be too vague. If you guys don't get it, I'll do it wrong.
But Kristen's the sportiest person on this episode.
I mean, I could tell you the name of the Toronto team that just got launched, but the new rule.
That's okay. I'll ask a different one. It's kind of a fun rule, though. It's they've got like a jailbreak rule where if you've got somebody in the penalty box and you score a shorthanded goal, they're free, which I think is so fun.
Oh, that's great.
That's delightful.
That's great. That's awesome. So we were talking about local news. I do got to jump in because we're talking about the NHL. In PEI currently, things are just a buzz because I guess the province of PEI put a bunch of their tourism dollars, and it's like $8 million deal, which in PEI is probably like 80% of our GDP. They put that into like basically being like the official tourism partner of the NHL. And the whole idea was that they're going to have the NHL awards come to PEI. And so they put so much money into this. And now like it's coming out that like there's been ministers that have flown to like the NHL awards and all this stuff and seen games and been wined and dined. on taxpayer dollars. And then they were trying to get basically NHL awards to come to PEI, and they're competing with like, it's like in Las Vegas in some beautiful new hotel with like Justin Timberlake singing. And it's like, PEI can't compete with that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not a chance. So that's been like a huge buzz thing that's been happening lately here on PEI, which is pretty infuriating. While people, can't afford to eat or pay rent, there's a whole bunch of money going to NHL.
When will PEI get their own NHL team, though? That's the question.
Never, hopefully.
What would their name be?
There's like a Quebec Major Junior team here, and it's named the Charlottetown, ready for it? Islanders.
Kristen's got a tiebreaker for us. Let's go.
Okay. Tiebreaker goes to whoever can tell us what percentage tariffs is Trump planning to impose on Canada.
Retract.
Oh, Gordon.
25.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gordon, we have a winner in like a very cutthroat. This was cutthroat this year.
Amazing.
Amazing. Very exciting stuff. But I do want to know, you guys all did really well. That was incredible. These questions I wouldn't have gotten nearly as many of them as you guys did. I was like looking at them and I'm like, I wasn't paying attention this year. So my question then, before we get to Gordon, our winner, Steph, what charity would you like to shout out this year?
I'm going to shout out the charity Rainbow Railroad. They help LGBTQ plus people escape countries they're being persecuted in. And they do a lot of work to throw back to the beginning of the conversation, or perhaps before we were talking. They were a member of the place that I work. And at one point, I printed 2 pieces of paper for them, and they took them and said, "Thank you. You just helped me save a life." And I was like, I just made the printer work. I think we did the rest of that. I always appreciated that from them. And so I'll give them a shout out. They do incredible work. They've been growing depressingly. They've had to grow a lot, but they still do really important work.
Incredible. And Ryan, who would you like to shout out this year?
It's a great pick, Steph. I'll go with the Women of First Light. It's a group of Indigenous women from the Wabanaki territory who do a lot of work to heal communities and kind of bring back some traditional knowledge into communities. I don't know if you guys have heard of the like 1 Day's Pay movement. So they were one of the organizations named there. So yeah.
And Gordon, who are Kristen and I donating to this year?
Yeah, I'm going to go hyper local and on topic to some of our economic questions here in terms of the cost of living. But right around the corner from where I live is the Fort York Food Bank. And the lines have been getting longer and longer and longer down College Street. So yeah, anything we can do to support them to get more food to people in need, I think would be fantastic.
That wasn't the food bank that I donated to for Kristen one year. Was it, Kristen? I've 1 year for Kristen.
I think it might have been.
Yeah, I think 1 year for Christmas, because Kristen was living in Toronto at the time. As my gift to her, I donated in her name to a food bank around the corner from her. And it might have been that one. So
amazing. Maybe there's like a pullback plaque somewhere in that.
For the like $50. But no, that's amazing.
Shout out to the food banks in Canada and probably the United States. Like, we should not live in a society where people feel ostracized going to get food, and yet we do. And we've talked a lot about food insecurity a lot, Kristen and I. And there are so many better ways. And yet here we are.
Yeah. And I think it's a very poignant choice. There's a coalition of Canadian food banks this year that have a campaign called Put Food Banks Out of Business. That's all about when you do a donation, also writing to your member of parliament asking for basic income. So we'll do that as well.
Yeah. Oh, my member of parliament gets so many letters from me. I'll do this one so that maybe they read it, though. I'll send like an actual. I'll like maybe do a wax stamp, make it look like a Christmas card, and be like, "You're doing a bad job." Just to wind us down and to say goodbye and to thank you all for being here. Kristen and I wanted to just check in and see what kind of New Year's resolutions, New Year's goals, sort of, what do you guys have in mind for 2025 to really amp up your own lives? I can go first. This year, so I've been doing, this is my second year doing like a themed year because someone mentioned it to me like 2 years ago and I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So my first year I did a year of friendship, made 2023 my year of friends. And now I have so many friends. I really got into the community. It was really lovely. 2024 was my year of health, which I think was too vague. I did a bad job. I did not. I need to narrow it down. So I think what I might do next year is might try my year of health again, but I might give each month a theme. So I think January I might do like gut health, and then February I might do like sleep health. Like just really. Maybe March will be like muscle health, and we'll start exercising again.
Well, this is the year that I should be hopefully finishing my dissertation and maybe getting an academic job somewhere if the stars align. So, yeah, call this the year of getting a job. I don't know.
I mean, I think mine is maybe a given. I will sometime in the next 3 weeks, approximately, end up with a small child, a baby, some might say. And so I think my year is just that. I think that's surviving the first bit, and then figuring out how to do that. So in sort of the opposite of my health year, like this is my anti-sleep year. Going in, I'm going to see how few hours of sleep I can get in 1 year, and I'll report back.
Those tech bro, the billionaire types on like TikTok that, describe themselves as like sleeping 2 hours a night or whatever, which is complete bullshit. But maybe it's not. Maybe you'll find that you have these superhuman intelligence with less sleep.
Yeah, Steph's about to become a billionaire, the only billionaire on the Harbinger Media Network.
I'll show up next year in 12 months with a crypto scheme and just no hair, and you'll be like, I see that went well for you.
I think we kind of started this talking about like how we've just probably seen so much media we can't remember it. And I'm thinking in my head, like I probably saw, I would say, 3,000 news headlines this year. But like I haven't had much retention of some of those things as we've just seen. So I think I want to be more intentional about like the means by which I consume my media. So, I think slowing things down. I don't think brains are meant to, consume things at 100,000 kilometers an hour. So really, this is just a kind of way to say, put down your dang phone and read some books, buddy. That'll be my theme for this year, I guess. 2025.
Shout out. I'm going to sound like a, crazy old man, but newspapers. I am like I've always read newspapers, and I just cannot get my news off of my phone. I get into these Twitter black holes, but just like sitting down, being disconnected, but like having the news.
Like a physical newspaper, really.
You can still get those.
You folks all in these cities. We just got bought out. Our local paper just got bought out by Post Media. So it's not even any local news anymore, pretty much. So there's a bit, and there's still some really good people working there. So some of those journalists are really good, but
there's got to be some guy named Doug down the street who's doing like a flyer that you can grab, though. Right?
yeah. There's something. We'll find something, I'm sure.
What about you, Kristen? What are you going to be? What's your 2025 going to look like?
So this is a bit of a nerdy one, but I'm turning 35 this year, which is there's officially no survey once you're 35 that counts you as a youth. Up till 34, there's still a couple. So it's going to be my farewell to my youth tour.
That was by this year. I was like riding that high of like I could still technically a youth band. No one says 36 is a youth. That's just not.
Yeah, I'm going to learn to skateboard and get a tattoo.
How do you do, fellow children?
Exactly.
We love it. Thank you so much for spending a Saturday afternoon with us. Steph, Gordon, and Ryan, we really appreciated it. This was super fun. And we hope that we get to stay connected with you as we all go into 2025.
We are grateful to be learning and unlearning on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, as well as the ancestral unceded territory of the Anishinaabe-Algonquin Nation. We encourage listeners to visit native-land.ca to learn more about the history of their own territory and to read the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls to action.